And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right, I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you loved it so much that you wanted to come back for more. Folks, you're brilliant. You're absolutely astute because you know what? We have a lot more for you. Fantastic lady in the studio today. You're going to absolutely love this episode. I already do, and I haven't even heard all the answers to all the questions. So, folks, I'm telling you right now, the reason that she is here with us today is because this is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And you cracked the code. Our guest today is a podcaster. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships, folks. So let's get sailing. Let's bring in today's guest, the founder of Soul Podcasting Collective, the host of Soul Podcasting and several other podcasts that we're going to get to here as soon as we get rolling. Please welcome Demetria Zinga. Demetria, how you doing?
I'm doing so good, and I'm so glad to be here with the Podcaster Nation and with you, Rory. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That might be the most polite opening I've ever gotten from anybody. Thank you for that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. So, hey, I know we have a lot to kind of get through, and you have a lot of accomplishments, a lot of things you've done. Why don't we just start with you telling everybody who is Demetria? What are you about and what brings you here today?
All right. Well, wow, that's a big question. It could be answered in a lot of different ways. So who am I? I'm a woman who is deeply passionate about wherever I am in that season of my life. I find things that really just take me into a deeper zone and a deeper level, and I just keep learning. So I'm a lifelong learner. And one of the things that what we're going to get to soon about podcasting is that podcasting has helped me to learn so much in life. So I'm a podcaster. I'm a serial podcaster. I've been doing this for 20 years and have started a total of 8 of my own shows and just keep starting new ones. And so I'm also a wife, a mama of 2 beautiful girls who are now grown up. One is 17, one is 24. So they are growing up quickly and living lives of their own. And so I'm just working on that part of my journey of parenting, releasing my children to get out in the world and launch their own things. I am also a singer and songwriter. I would love to call myself a producer, but I'm working on learning those skills now. So again, learning new things about music, and yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I love to read. I love to go on walks every day and learn how to cook new foods. So
Oh, I love it. You're even cooking on top of all this. So
yeah,
you're cooking
yeah,
food.
yeah.
Wow, all right.
Gotta cook food.
That's beautiful. So, yeah, I did not know that you were a singer. I think that's amazing. So, is that something that you're
Yeah,
pursuing in addition
yeah.
to all of these other things that you're doing?
I am, even though it's not going as quickly as I would like for it to, but I do have several, over 50 songs that I've written that have not been produced, but they're copyrighted and they're ready to go. I just need to find the right people to help me launch them. And I do sing
Wow,
at my church. So that's something I'm working on in my life right now and trying to keep going with that and not lose momentum.
that's nice. Singing in your church has got to be awesome
Yeah.
there too. So
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love our worship team.
beautiful. All right, now I know that you're the host of Soul Podcasting. So why don't we maybe start there? Tell everybody a little bit about what that is, and then we can get into these other ones that you host because they sound really intriguing.
Yeah, so soul podcasting is I see it as a resource to help new podcasters and those who are maybe relaunching a show to refresh their energy and passion for the work they're doing. Because podcasting is it's there's all these different aspects of it. There's the tech side of it, and then there's the motivation side. And so I'm kind of there like a virtual cheerleader to kind of cheer on podcasters to just do it and to keep going and to just really reach into your soul, into your passions, and pull that out and show the world what you got and share it with the world. We've only got one chance to live this life, and you may as well share as much as you can while you're here. And so that's what I do on solo podcasting, is encouraging voices, encouraging people to use their voice to the best of their ability and to share with their passions with the world.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, and I just found that out that you're a podcast coach, and so you're helping these folks. That's
Yeah,
beautiful. I am too, and so I just have mad respect for somebody who's out there doing the same thing because there's so many
yeah,
people who really want to succeed at this, and I think they get so frustrated because they can't get any help
yeah.
that they end up kind of fading out. But it's great that there's people like you out there
Right.
doing that too. So that's absolutely beautiful. So
Yeah, yeah.
I've listened to the podcast. Love your style. I love the way you do things. You had a great interview, with a mutual friend of ours, Dave Campbell.
Yeah.
The the podcast itself, I know that it's aimed at sort of helping new podcasters and that kind of thing, helping the existing folks. Um, is that your main podcast that you work on? Is that sort of your flagship, or is it one of the other ones? And is that maybe on the side?
Yeah. No, this at this point in my life, soul podcasting is my main thing. And I do, like I said, I run several other shows, but those have been more, they've run a little longer and they have their own niche audiences and not neither of those audiences are necessarily interested in podcasting. And so I'm really focusing on podcasting now, but I still love to give back to the homeschool community. So definitely still showing up there in that space and Her Business Elevated, showing up as a solopreneur cheerleader of sorts and helping women entrepreneurs with their endeavors there. So, but right now, like I'm really throwing my energy and passion into soul podcasting.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just so that everybody knows the actual titles on those. So it's Her Business Elevated.
Yes.
Okay, and
Mhm.
just a line or two. That podcast serves whom?
Women solopreneurs.
Got it. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. And then it's Christian homeschool moms, which kind of
Right.
sounds self-explanatory.
Yeah. Homeschool moms of faith.
Gotcha. And mompreneurs in heels.
And that was also an overlap with Her Business Elevated, which is why I sort of kind of shifted there. But mompreneurs are moms who are entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. And my goal was to help them to find how to find their passion, right? And be able to still stay on the home front with their kids while working from home.
Beautiful. All right. Soul podcasting, the main line then, that works with you're the founder of Soul Podcasting Collective. So tell me the difference between
Mhm.
those two and what the collective is all about. I think people are going to be really interested in that too.
Okay, so Soul Podcasting Collective is our agency where we assist podcasters in their audio and video editing. We also offer, like you were, a coaching, and we're just there to kind of be the, I guess, the hands that are on deck to help podcasters get that work done. We also, with the coaching, we kind of help with the mindset and anything that's sort of in their way, any barriers to entry, we're helping coach them through that. So it could be technology, it could be tools, it could be education of how to use those, or just, like I said, mindset shift and just helping them through figuring out their branding, their positioning, their voice before they even launch. But that's what we're there for. And there are a few of us that are working together to help podcasters so that I'm not doing this all by myself. And as far as the podcast itself, it's sort of an outlet or a branch of that. It's a part of that process where it's our free resource where new podcasters can listen in and gain the help that they need. And those who are maybe have been in it for a while or veteran podcasters just get that motivation to keep going and feel really good at the end of a show. I always aim to make the show so that you feel like, okay, I've listened to something that took me through a journey. And now I feel encouraged at the end of this that, yeah, I want to do that next show. I want to put out that next episode. So,
Nice.
yeah, it's a lot of energy into it.
Nice. I love that. You can tell how passionate you are just, by watching you and everything. The energy's coming through the screen.
Oh,
So
awesome.
it's beautiful. Okay, so I get that you're helping these other folks. It sounds like you have a team working with you in that way, which is fantastic. You've built a lot of legs to the program here. Applause for you. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Not easy to
Thank
do.
you. Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, with all of the things that you have going, with all of the talents that you have, with all of the interests that you have also, why podcasting? Because you're all in on podcasting for sure.
Right.
So Why podcasting above all
I
the other
figured
ones?
I figured you'd ask me that at some point. Podcasting, I okay, 20 years ago, I fell into it. And I say fell into it because it was new and it was something that I wasn't thinking along those terms because we hadn't heard of it, but what I was trying to do matched up with where the industry was headed. So I was already creating a platform for Christian women. So I created a website. I wanted us to meet up online using whatever tools we had available at the time. And so we were meeting to pray together. I called it Christian Ladies Connect. This is in 2004. And we would pray together on the phone on teleseminars, and I would record these. And so I would have these little audio play buttons on my website. And the website was served kind of as our ministry portal where we would I had a lot of us together would like create articles and we would upload them to the site. So we would also upload the audios. And then after some time, I had been listening to a show that at the time was called the Wham Talk Radio, or Work at Home Moms Talk Radio by Kelly McCausey. And she inspired me because I noticed how she shifted her online radio show, which I was calling mine Christian Ladies Talk Radio, and she'd shifted hers over to a podcast. And I said, how in the world did you do that? And what is a podcast? And this is so cool. So that's where it started. And I just did my research and I followed her. I really just followed her footsteps. And I saw that she was doing it and it was awesome. And I could just subscribe to it and it would automatically download her audios to my little, what was it called? I can't even remember those little devices.
I think it was an iPod back then, but I mean,
iPod, yes.
iPod, yeah.
Yeah. It was an iPod Nano or one of those. So I
Wow.
would like look on my iPod to see when Kelly had her new episode downloaded, and I said, you know what, I want to be able to do the same thing. I didn't know it was called syndication. I just, I had to learn all of this. So I followed her footsteps, and then I found a couple of other people, and at the time, that's when I ran into Dave Jackson and found his school of podcasting and just learned everything I could about it and started the Christian Ladies Talk Radio in 2005 as a podcast. So that was taking the RSS feed and like validating it and all of the techie stuff that you had to figure out at the time. And then just creating this talk radio show and putting it on iTunes. And that meant the world to me because I knew it had more exposure now. It wasn't just a play button on my website. Now, anybody who found it on iTunes would have access to those audios. And so that kind of led to a new leg of my journey where now people were asking me, and these are the women who were part of our ministry, were asking me how they could do the same thing. And so I started helping them to put their audios into a format where they could make a podcast. And so that's where I started podcast coaching, was around 2006. That's when I started what I called a boot camp, so an internet radio podcast boot camp, and we helped a bunch of people just launch their podcasts, and we did a week of coaching, and there were a couple of people that wanted to get their podcast launched, and these were mostly Christian women, so like women's ministry. And then I started helping churches. At the time, I was living in the Southeast. And so I started helping ministries and getting their shows online. Life coaches were asking, so I was helping them. And it was such a new phenomenon at the time that like it just seemed like, wow, this is the next big thing, this podcasting. And this is a great way to spread the gospel. It's a great way to share our faith with the world. And it's not expensive. And it's something you can do from your bedroom. Literally, you don't have to go anywhere and you can be preaching the gospel or sharing your faith or encouraging people and, spiritually. But we can also use it for business. And so I was kind of torn between like, okay, I want this to be business, but I also want to help ministries. And that's where the idea of I could name this Faith Media, and then we could focus on ministries, but we could also, be available to solopreneurs and life coaches and business coaches. So that's kind of where the whole thing began, 2005-ish, and then really took off in 2006. And then I had a lot of life happening between then and now that like shifted my mind and my ability to be available for it. And so I relaunched in 2023 under Impact Podcast Coach, which is now Soul Podcast.
Wow, quite the story and quite the journey. And
Yeah,
I'm just sort
it's
of,
a lot.
yeah, my mouth's like on the table over here. I'm just going, okay. I mean, my goodness. I mean, you're one of the pioneers in this thing that we do.
It goes back. It goes way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot of stories I could tell about just the process of getting through as far as technology, how much that's changed, and mindsets have changed a lot regarding like who's interested in podcasting now and how it started, and just the way we even show up is very different now than I think it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, I'm one who could sit here and listen to all those stories all day. And so I'm dying to hear some of them. But a question that was brewing in my mind while you were talking was how much it's changed.
Yeah.
Because when you first
Yeah.
started doing all this, I mean, the first thing you had to do to coach somebody in a podcast was probably start with, no, this is a podcast. Here's what a podcast is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was foundational. Like, what is a podcast? And so I had so many articles on my website teaching the definition of a podcast. I had articles just like, what is it? Let's break the word apart. Podcast. And we're going to talk about what that means. And so yeah, there was a lot of education around it, but also so much interest in like learning. People wanted to know, how can I use this to facilitate what I'm trying to do in my company or my business? And like I said, a lot of life coaches saw the value of being able to bring that into their business. And then so the things that I think have changed over the years is the accessibility. It's just easier now. It's just
Sure.
by far, it's so easy. Tools are available and they're so easy to use. And I think then back in those days, you really had to almost fight to have a show because you had to learn how to work with the tools that were available at that time, and they were not robust. They weren't easy to use, and then there were a few companies that came out with, for example, the little play buttons that we could place on our website, but then you had to know Java code. You had to know how to or either copy HTML and paste it into the back end of your WordPress. And if you're not familiar with WordPress, then there's just a lot of things in the way. And so, well, that's where I came in, and I was like, I can help you do that. I can copy that code and put it in the back end for you. But then when we learned with podcasting, there's not much in the way of needing to copy code, and it's syndicated and it's already in iTunes. Then it was just a matter of how do we make this easy to access on our websites. And that's where we discovered the power of the blog, because there was already an XML RSS feed. And so you just connect that to your website and there you go. Just every blog post, put a audio link, attach it, and it's part of your feed. And therefore you take that feed and bring it over to iTunes so it sees your feed. And so there was just all of these little technical things. And I'm so grateful today that you can just find a host and
Right.
just upload your audios and you're good. And it's so much easier. So I do think that working for having a podcast, again, it's a lot more work back then, and you had to be super intentional. So those of us who had shows were really like, we wanted it, and we weren't just playing around with the idea of a podcast. Like, we were serious. Like, if we're going to put this much energy into learning how to use it and how to do it, we're going to have a show. And we're going to
Right.
do this for a while. And so I think I just did that for so long that it just became a part of my lifestyle, and always was. I considered myself an evangelist, I guess, of podcasting. It just felt like there's this intriguing like connection between faith ministry and the podcast. And I never understood that. Even today, I still don't completely understand how I'm positioned there, but there was always faith in the middle of it somehow. And I mean, ministries, or I'm talking about my faith, but somehow faith and podcasting were connected for me. So I think that's just part of my personal journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I mean, that's interesting. Do you feel like you've been called to doing all of this? Is that kind of where the faith starts getting involved with it?
I do believe so. I do believe so because when you first asked me like how did I get started and what drew me to podcasting, there's really no specific hardcore. I could just tell you that I saw Kelly McCausey doing it and I did it, but I feel like it's so much more. And it always felt like a way to not take advantage, it's not the right word, but like to capitalize on or to just ride out the waves of where God had me at that moment. So if with him allowing me to have a website where I could share my truth and share my faith with Christian women, and we were in this kind of this community online, and if I could add the podcast to that, how much more, would I be able to share this great time we had together in community with the world, or whoever's listening, right? And then they would in turn be encouraged. So that has been sort of my motto with every podcast I've created. It's always been one of like wanting to encourage, inspire, motivate, and bring hope and bring healing to people. Every show I create, even if it's about technology, it's always like encouraging. I always end up encouraging somehow. And so I just feel like that probably is a really big part of how I've been positioned in this world and what I guess what God wants to use, how he wants to use me through business. And just happens to be that podcasting is on the horizon and I'm able to be a part of that. So I'm excited for that. Like it's not been easy and it's definitely been a lot of work and I have been discouraged many times. But the more I do it, the more I know that I'm supposed to be doing it. And that's what feels good.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like it's real easy when you start telling stories and when you listen to stories about folks who used to do things and they started a long time ago. You get caught up in the, okay, well, what has changed technology, right? And all these other
Yeah.
types of things. But you forget about the content and the why. Um, and when I look at your story, it's especially as you've been telling it just today and with what I've, read about you and listened to your podcast, the the message seems very clear that you really have been all about building ministry and serving, and
Yeah.
podcasting's been the vehicle that you've chosen to do that. Am I close?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've actually really made it more clear to me by your saying it just now. Exactly. Podcasting has been the vehicle by which I've been able to share my truth, which also is not even just like my truth in the moment, but like a journey of my figuring out what the truth is and the things that God is revealing to me and showing me about myself and about the world. And I can see like how far I've come. I can see the changes in my life and in my walk with the Lord, and it's so real to me when I look at, okay, this is where I used to be, this is where I am now, and then how many people have I been able to impact in this span of time? And it also, the other part of it is that I have more accountability because now I have to be really careful what I say, how I say it, and knowing that having that kind of influence it really affects people's lives because I've had people tell me like you've said something on your show that really changed my family. Like we changed the way we were doing things because of what you said on episode number whatever on my homeschool podcast. And it's just like, wow, it's mind blowing to me. And I'm like, okay, well, I just was saying it. I didn't really mean for you to, but I'm glad that it's helping you and your family. But wow, to know that we have larger impact through a podcast than sometimes we think we do.
Is there anything better than feedback like that? I mean, really?
I know. Yeah, I know. And it's humbling because
Oh,
you realize, wow, that's a huge responsibility.
yeah. I love I love the journey. I love that you've included your own development, your own progress, like you just were talking about. Traveling from here to here, my beliefs were this. Maybe they've been altered, changed, grown.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's where a lot of folks miss out. Everybody wants to like have a perfect, shiny, finished product, and nobody wants to show the mess that we all are in between times.
Yeah.
But that's what
Yeah.
connects with folks because they feel like they're a mess. And when they hear that, we're a mess, then they listen more. I love that you've been willing to do that. That's so open and daring, really.
Yeah, it's been scary. It's been scary because I knew that, for example, 7 years ago, I said, okay, where am I going with this homeschool podcast? Because this is not going to be the rest of my life. And I don't even believe the same way I did when I first started this journey. And so I've had to show up and share the changes in my mindset, in the way I view parenting, the way I view home education, the way I see this community. And I love them and I love what I did. And I'm glad that I homeschooled, but I have different point of view now. And so showing up on that podcast is a little bit different now because I've had to rearrange the way I do things and how I share. And I'm a lot more versatile. So I don't just talk to homeschoolers, I'm talking to people who are maybe tutoring their kids after school or hybrid schooling. And so I'm looking at being more open to other areas on that show, even though it started off as this like only homeschool. Like, no, there's a lot more needs in this world, and I would like to address that because I've had to show the good, the bad, and the ugly of what we went through in our family as we traversed the homeschooling terrain. It was not easy for us. And so yeah, my audience at the time, they got to see all of those hiccups. And on top of that, they watched it on YouTube as we showed our family vlogs. And so some of it's super cringy. I have been tempted to take at least 50% of it down, but it still gets a lot of views and people are like, "Oh yeah, I like that you reviewed that curriculum or whatever." So I try to keep some things up, but yeah, definitely has been a journey, and they've heard the rough, raw, unedited versions of my shows where I forgot to completely edit maybe 20 minutes of silence before before the beginning of an episode. They would hear my dog barking, they hear the baby crying, they hear all of the static because I didn't have the best microphone, and I never went back and changed a thing. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we just fast forwarded to the 20-minute mark and we were good." So that's what it was.
I love it. People don't mind the mistakes the
Yeah,
way we think that they do.
that's true.
There's that and maybe you've seen this with your students. I know I have. Everybody thinks they have to be perfect. Like their day one has to match somebody else's day 500.
Right. And that is so far from the case because how will you learn unless you make some mistakes? Like you
Right.
have to jump in there and be willing to be vulnerable and blunder through the first couple of episodes and be okay with that. And know also that those shows are going to be buried further and further down as you do more shows and get better at it. So you're more likely to have people listen to the shows at the very top of your list, right? So, but yeah, I think we have to be willing to take action, and also it takes a little bit of not caring, just a little edge in your personality where you just kind of don't care so much what happens or what people think, and you just really have the passion to show up and do your best in the moment, and you kind of have to shut off the what will people think and then just move forward. um, so sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It's scary, but if you really want to start, you have to start just the way you are.
I love that. That's more great advice. Um,
Yeah.
okay. You did mention you have a YouTube channel too. Does the YouTube channel house all of these, or is it particular to just one of the shows?
So I have two YouTube channels, and one of them is my homeschool channel, and that houses my Christian Homeschool Moms podcast, in addition to the vlogs that we did for years.
Great.
So that's like, yeah, 10 years of homeschool, 10 plus years of homeschool content there. And then my solopreneur channel is kind of versatile. It houses Soul Podcasting and Her Business Elevated, and it used to house Mompreneurs and Hills, but I don't know that I still have that one connected. And basically, I'm just using the RSS feed connector thing that YouTube allows us to do,
Sure.
just to make it easy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good deal. We'll definitely put links to that stuff in the show notes,
Okay.
everybody. So don't worry. You'll be able to find it. I promise. We'll link it up. It's going to be great. Making a note right here. YouTube links. Get those in there. Got it. All right. Perfect. Now on the Soul podcast, you've
Mhm.
got, if I remember right, it was 57 episodes on that one?
Yes, actually, we just edited 60 today, so that should be out next week. But yes,
There you go.
57.
All
Yeah.
right. And that's a weekly podcast that you put out?
It's weekly. We're at the moment, we're producing three a week, and we're going to slow down at some point. I have a feeling it's going to slow down to two a week, and then maybe once a week later on. But yes, every single week.
All right. Three a week on that one that you're putting
Yes.
out. All
Yes.
right. And so how many are you putting out on the other ones? I'm just curious what your workload looks like during the week with what you're
Her Business
doing.
Elevated. Oh, see, Her Business Elevated is only once a month.
Okay. All right.
So we were doing every single week with that one, but we've slowed down a lot just because we want to focus on soul podcasting. And so Her Business Elevated is once a month. Christian Homeschool Moms was also once a month until this summer. We decided to do a summer marathon, and we have a lot of guests that we've recorded over the last couple of months, and so we're just putting them out every single week until the summer's over. That gives homeschool parents a chance to figure out what they want to do for the new school year, and the guests are really helpful in like their curriculum, or if they're a publishing company and they have resources they can offer to parents to kind of think about over the summer. So that'll go back to once a month, probably in August.
Nice. All right. So, I mean, it's still quite the workload, especially 3 times a week.
Yeah.
There are folks who
Yeah.
just would hear that and be like, wait, 3 times a week? No way. Can't possibly do it. So
No.
I love it. But my favorite thing that you just demonstrated everybody, though, is that you are the boss of your own podcast and there are no rules. You
No
can
rules.
decide whatever you want to do with your podcast. So you said, hey, we want to focus on this. Now we're going 3 times a week.
Yep.
And if you change your focus, you can always come back down.
Yep.
Was that hard for you, back in the day to kind of, adjust to, or are you, in it early enough that it just is part of the game? It's been the wild, wild west since the beginning.
No, it's always been I've always been very, very just very free. And that's the best way I can put it. I free myself to do things the way I do them because my priority is my family. It's always been my family, and making sure that I'm available for whatever the kids were doing, whatever the husband needs. He was in the military, so I had a lot of things happening where I had to manage different aspects of family life. And so podcasting had to work around that for me. And so I just felt that, if I need to drop to once a month, I'm just going to let my audience know that they'll hear from me in 4 weeks. And that's going to be okay with everybody because that's what I needed in my life. And so I've always felt that way for every show. And then I evaluate, every couple of months or so, like maybe every quarter, what needs to change. So I'll look at statistics for some shows like Soul Podcasting. I'll look at the stats, or I'll look at like what are people asking for? What kinds of questions do they want? What's going on in my business funnel at the moment for that show? And then I'll make a decision on, okay, should I increase the number of shows we do for now, or like how should we navigate that? For other shows like the homeschool show, it's complete ministry, really. And so it was just very leisure for me. And if I felt like once a week, that's what we did. If I had a lot of people that we'd recorded, then I'd say, okay, let's do that once a week until they're all out and published. And then we'll drop down to a reasonable amount of time. But I'm finding that the downloads on that show have been significant on episodes we did 10 plus years ago. And so those evergreen content, like it's still alive today. And so I don't feel the need to like rush with getting more content out there anymore because I know that what I've done over 10 years ago is still helping, it's still helping people.
Wow, you have to love the evergreen aspect of putting our episodes out. They are, in
Absolutely.
fact, there forever. So, I I love that. You clearly, your priority, at least one of them, is building ministry. Now, are you housing the ministry somewhere? Do you have a private group or any kind of thing like that where you're bringing people together, who
For
find your
the
podcasting?
For the homeschool podcast, which that's probably the biggest ministry aspect I have going right now.
Hmm.
And that one is it has its own blog, which I call its own little home on the web. And it's been there for since 2012. And it's christianhomeschoolmoms.com. And it's a collection of just articles, blog posts, videos. I try to incorporate a lot of our vlogs that we did on YouTube into those blog posts. And then it also houses our podcast and other homeschool leaders that have been on the podcast with me. I promote them and I have them front and center on the homepage so people can like reach out to them for homeschool support. They're coaches, homeschool coaches and advocates. And so it's a ministry, but it's also been a great way to just share what's going on in the world of home education. That means curriculum, like really helping parents to figure out which curriculum is a great choice for my family. And so there's been some collaborations there. I've been involved in some just affiliate kind of work there as well. So, won't say 100% ministry. There's been some business aspect to it as well, but yeah, I've had a good time with Christian homeschool moms.
Nice. I love it. I love the mission that you're on and the way that you're doing it. Let me ask you a sort of a strictly podcasting question, just
Okay.
for a minute. Because I mean, you're having so much success with all of these different podcasts. What have you found to be the most effective way of promoting your podcasts and your community and what you do?
Yeah, that's a question that I keep asking myself all the time. How am I gonna, what are we gonna do next week to promote? But yeah, it's all been just free ways to promote, which is social media for us. And we have built a newsletter or an email list, I should say. And so being able to reach out that way has been really helpful. That way, our listeners or our readers or subscribers to the newsletter know what we're doing with our podcast because sometimes they just sign up because they really want that resource and they want to learn how to podcast or for the homeschool show how to do something with homeschooling. But once they're on the list, that's where I share our podcast and what we're doing. So that's been really helpful. And then, like I said, just social media, so Instagram, LinkedIn. I haven't been really big on TikTok, but I'm dipping my toes in the waters of TikTok. And yeah, just Facebook was a big one for me back in the day. I'm not as much there anymore, but yeah, we try to keep our presence in most of the social media world where we can, even if we're not completely there all the time. We have a presence there, and I would just say it's just been a lot of that and word of mouth. Maybe people at church or people in my community that I talk to, that kind of thing. I haven't used ads, so we just haven't done that yet. But
That's
that's how
great.
we roll.
Good for you. I love that. I really do. These are the questions that I know everybody's sitting here right now. They're like, "Hey, ask her this question. Hey, Rory, ask her this question." So, promoting is definitely some people make comments about and they want to hear about. So I appreciate you, being honest about that one. Um, as we, kind of get into this, I was going to ask you my corny question. I'm going to wait one more on that one because we started talking about email lists and things like that. And I know you have some freebies that you want to like give away to everybody and offer to folks who are listening right now. Do you want to maybe cover those and we can talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I have quite a few freebies. If you head over to soulpodcasting.com/resources, there are a few there. But there's one in particular, and it is my Launch Confidently podcasting checklist. And it takes you through all the things that I wish I had known when I started podcasting, and just takes you through like the how to think through the process, how to plan produce, launch, and grow. It's like a four-step process. And it takes you through the tools that I've used or have tried and a few that I recommend. And then going anything from technical to the planning of your show and and producing it and how to get it uploaded to your hosting and that kind of thing. So it's very technical and also very just easy to go through the workbook. It's very simple, but I love it and I always recommend it, especially to brand new podcasters. It takes, I think, the guesswork out of starting and launching a show. So I recommend that one. And then, of course, there are quite a few other resources there. There's some master classes there you can watch and a few other things.
Nice. And everything's housed under the soulpodcasting.com/resources.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And we will
That's it.
definitely have that link in the show notes because I'm going to go check that stuff out and see if I can learn something about what's going on. I absolutely love that. So I can't wait to ask you these last couple of questions here because frankly, I feel like I'm in the presence of podcasting royalty right now. So I just really want to
Oh,
hear what you have to say about this. But I always ask a corny question and I get some pretty cool answers. So, we'll see. The pressure's on you now.
okay.
But when it comes to doing your podcast, what is it that you love the most? And what is it about doing your podcast that you just absolutely cannot stand that you dislike the most?
Oh, wow. That's a big question.
See, there you go.
That's a little question. Okay. I think I'll start with loving the most.
All right.
And I think that what I love the most is because I'm a people person, I love people, so the connection, the making that kind of an impact on audiences that I will probably never meet them, but when I do meet someone and I've had this happen a few times, I'll meet someone who they figured out that I'm the person they were listening to on their app and I'm just like, "Oh, that's so cool that you listen to my show." And just that connection and then hearing them say how much what I've said has influenced their life or enhanced them in some way or helped them. That is the best part of podcasting for me, hands down, just helping people. And even if I don't get that feedback, knowing that it's there, it's just that I'm probably never going to hear that I helped someone, but
Yeah.
knowing that is everything. I think the hardest part for me is that said on the flip side, when I don't hear, when I don't, when it's silent, right? And
Yeah.
it's crickets and there's nothing. It's just like empty space between episodes. That is hard psychologically because you keep going as a podcaster and you know that you're helping someone. It's landing somewhere, but you're not getting feedback. And there are moments, a lot of moments like that. But it's all worth it when you finally do hear, "Hey, you helped me on episode number 123." Like that makes up for all of the months I didn't hear anything. But yeah, I always ask for feedback. Even on my newsletters, I'm just like asking like, "Hey, how did you like episode number whatever?" Leave me a note in Instagram, DM me or say something, right? Because it means a lot to hear from your audience that you're they're vibing with you and they love the content. And then you want to know like is how can I change what I'm doing to really meet your needs? Like, is there something you would love to hear other than what I'm talking about? Or can I tweak my content in a way to really meet you where you are? And so I found myself doing that a lot for the homeschool show because their needs were different. After a few years, I started having requests to talk about things that were happening in the homeschool world that were not being talked about before. And they were asking me, "Hey, we want you to talk about it because we know your family's experiencing these things. And so we want you to say something on your show." And so that is kind of where I started to feel like, okay, they are part of my, I guess they're like my committee in a way. They get to help me decide what my content will be and they help me shape this podcast. And that's so meaningful to me. So I would say that on the one hand, I love hearing from people. On the other hand, I can't stand it when I don't hear anything back.
I love it. This is why I asked the question because I always get really, really cool answers. So, and that was very unique, that answer about what you dislike part of it. I really appreciate that too. If we did this Family Feud style and it was like top five answers on the board, I think editing, promoting, those are like
Yeah, those are the big ones,
number
the
one, number
top
two.
answers. Yeah,
Pretty much top couple answers, yeah, all the time. So, but
yeah,
that was very different. I love that. I can relate to it personally. So I'm like, yeah, that's rough, but I love the way you did it and what it means, in your world. That's just really incredible.
yeah.
Man, you have given us so much today, and I absolutely love it. I hate to ask you for more, but I am going to ask you one more question.
Oh,
So we're going back to the
all
well
right.
one more time. All right.
Let's do
Uh,
it.
so as we kind of, bring this to a close and pull things together here, you've given a lot of advice on the podcast. I know you give advice sort of as, for a living. What is the best piece of advice you can give to a podcaster who's out there, and it's just not quite where you are yet?
Yeah. Wow. There's so many pieces of advice that are running through my head right now. And then thinking of the best piece of advice. I think the best thing I would ask you to do is to stay true to your heart and your passion and why you're starting the show. And the moment you start to veer away from that truth, then you'll have to step back and reevaluate what you're doing and why. Because again, this is not a overnight fly by night kind of success that a lot of people want in podcasting, and we want to make sure that we're speaking with passion and that we're doing the things that are helping our audiences. So,
I heard every word you said. We lost your picture for a minute, but I heard every
okay.
word you said.
All
Yep.
right, there we go.
So that was
I
beautiful.
have to fix that.
That's all right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but we did. We
Speak
heard
from
every
speak
single
from
thing you
your
said.
heart. And awesome. Awesome.
All right. Great
Yeah. Yeah,
advice.
that's what I would want, because I feel like it's so important to just remember that, the reason you're starting a show today, I mean, it doesn't have to be the same thing you're doing in 5 years, and that's okay. But when we lose our passion, it's because we forgot our foundation and we forgot why we started it. And so maybe it is time to pod fade. Maybe it's time to do something different. But if you want to keep going, then I think the best thing to do is just to remember your why and keep revisiting that every couple of months. Keep going back to the drawing board of why you got started and see if the passion's still there. And if it is, keep going.
Oh, I love that advice. There's a ton of advice you could give somebody, but that is spot on for so many people. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to keep moving. It's okay to change what you're doing. But if you don't have that passion and you don't know why you started it, then yeah, you can't. You're right. You lose track. You lose
Yeah.
that connection. That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Um, Dimitri, I just you've brought so much to the show today. I'm almost in awe. I appreciate it so very much. Folks, if you have been listening to this and you haven't gotten anything out of it, all I can tell you is you need to go get a cup of coffee, come back and listen to it again because you missed it. All right, it's there for you on a silver platter. Host of Soul Podcasting, founder of Soul Podcasting Collective. Your other shows, your other interests, singer, homeschool mom, the whole bit. Demetria Zinga, thank you so very much for being on our show today and sharing the way you have. It meant a lot, and I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. So thank you.
Rory, I'm so happy that you asked me to be on your show. I am just honored to be here and to speak with your listeners. And so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Folks, that's been another awesome episode of The Podcaster Nation. This is the podcast that's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. Folks, as we proved again yet today, this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.